Hi, I'm Ross Hudgens, founder of Siege Media, and today I want to talk to you about content strategy for SEO. What I mean by that is, how do you think about a content marketing strategy that actually informs doing SEO in the best possible way? We have people that come to us and they think they want links or they think they want content in some way. They don't know how to best maximize that for the highest impact. So content strategy for SEO, in my point of view, is doing that in a way that makes you get the best ROI, also allows you to think about content and content marketing in a way that is high value and, of course, hopefully the highest impact for your business. So the first thing we do for a new prospective client, and I think you should just do generally for yourself, is you look at competitors that are beating you in some way. It's clear there, maybe it's SEMrush or Ahrefs. Those tools show they have a clear lead from an organic traffic point of view. So you look at them and you look at them compared to you. Maybe they're ahead of you by 300,000 visits. And a first benchmark that I like to use is I'll put those sites into Majestic, into Moz, into your link tool of choice. Ahrefs is another one as well. And you see how many links they have compared to you. So if your competitor that has 300,000 visits in front of you has 200 links more than you, that's a pretty good qualitative or quantitative metric to throw out there and utilize as a reference point that you have to gain to get to them. Most of the time, if the gap is that significant, the number is not 200 links. More often, it's much larger than that. Other times, you actually do have a link lead, and instead you just need more content or you need better content. Sometimes that happens if you're a massive brand and there's another publisher that maybe is doing top or middle funnel content a lot better than you. So in those situations, what you can do is put in that competitor and then see the kind of strategy that they're utilizing to beat you. You can also use tools like Ahrefs and say they have a blog section or an idea section that's completely unique to you. You put that in there, you use the path functionality, and then you see how many visits and how many visitors they're getting from search specific to that section as opposed to you, and you'll now have a benchmark for the total opportunity there. So you think of the links from that point of view. In the second point of view, you'll now have this entire learn or blog section, and then you can go to top content to that section, and you'll now know how many of those pages actually exist. So if you know that there are hundreds of pages in their learn section and there's 300,000 visits, you now have a benchmark for what you need to accomplish. If you know you need 300 pages and you need 200 links in order to gain 300,000 in visits per year, you now have a quantitative way of thinking about where you need to get to. You need a certain number of articles in order to realize that traffic if it's top or middle funnel, and you need a certain amount of links in order to enable those rankings, whether it's for the top or middle funnel or the bottom funnel content that you create. So the next thing to do if you're thinking about those kinds of things and you have maybe a competitor who's actually thousands of links ahead of you, I think especially if you're trying to convince a company to get on board with content marketing in some way, you need to think about it in a way that is comparable or achievable. So sometimes if you're up against Apple.com and you're some other Mac manufacturer, or not Mac, but PC or a computer manufacturer, you are probably never going to gain on them in any kind of short-term fashion. What is more quantifiable in a shorter horizon is actually links per month. So something I actually like about Ahrefs' link velocity view is it'll show you what those people generated in terms of links in the last 30 days. So if it's not an achievable number in any kind of short timeline, I'll instead look at a 30-day horizon and say, how can we catch how many links they're doing per month? Therefore, they'll probably also have a massive traffic number ahead of you. You can now slowly jump them and gain ground on their massive lead. So if they're generating 150 per month, you can now dictate a strategy that generates hopefully 175 or 160 in order to catch them over time. And it's easier to think about what you need to achieve that when you put an achievable number that management or whoever is signing the checks needs to use to do that. So once you have those benchmarks in place, you can now think about how you're going to go about creating that content and acquiring those links. So if you know you have 400 links that you need to catch, my first step is to look at the winners in that market and see how they're generating links. So you can go to top pages on your link tool of choice. You look at what kind of content they're creating that's actually generating links, if any at all. Some competitors don't use content. They have a massive brand and that's their own content. Other markets, there's tons of content being created. And you can use that to inspire the kind of content that works for that market. And it'll often be a shortcut. So an example, if you're in the credit card space, I saw specifically a site there in a recent analysis, all they did is do surveys and data studies. So it was a clear signifier that this market kind of works for a high-end press and that kind of content specifically, as opposed to infographics or something like that, because it's a credit card space. So it's quick inspiration to do similar content that you know works, and also gives you an idea for the time required, the quality to stand out and actually beat that competitor. It's a good way to start thinking about beating them and catching them from a content perspective. Also, you'll just see, if you go to the top pages, you'll know the kind of content they're getting traffic from. So if they've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on content, you can know that it's not going to be easy for you to catch them, or generally you'll know what kind of effort is required in order to get there. That kind of like shortcut framework will get you the starting point to knowing what kind of strategy from a content marketing point of view you should be utilizing. So after that step, you should be thinking about reverse engineering those goals and that kind of content on top of what you do well or you think you can do well in order to achieve them. So if you know that you need 200 links in a given month, or 200 links in order to catch your competitors, what you next need to know is your goals. So if the executive team comes to you and they say, we want to catch visa.com in 12 months, how do we do that? You would then go to them and say, they have 500 more links than us. Therefore, we need to divide 12 months, 500 links by 12 months. That means we generally need to generate 60 links per month, or better than 60 links per month. Therefore, if we need to generate 65 links per month, then we can now reverse engineer what kind of effort we need to do to generate 65 links. And then if you can actually tie that lead of creditcards.com or visa.com, to back into value using tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush to see Visa's traffic is worth 40 million, and you know this content effort will get you 300 links and will gain that, maybe it's 20 million in order to catch them, and you only need 60 per month and it's 20 million, you can obviously see the value that you're going to get out of that effort, and it's a much more achievable argument to make when you're pitching upper management to do content. And also, it'll just generally give you the framework for what actually is required to catch and beat that kind of competitor. So after that, obviously, if it's not just a link-driven accomplishment, if it's more content, maybe you're lucky enough to be a brand that's leading, that's doing well, you would then look at how many pages that they have that are generating that kind of traffic. So if you already have a good domain authority and you see your competitor has 40,000 more pages than you to their content section, again, you do it by 12 months. And whatever that number is, I'm not going to be able to do that math off the top of my head. And then you can say, we need to do X number per month in order to catch them if we're going to be doing it. And it needs to be quality work and, of course, better work in order to really believe that we can catch Visa's 40 million in traffic value in that time. So you can see all those two arguments, and thinking about that will get you executive buy-in and as well as a strategy to actually accomplish it. So if you use comparable competitors, that's always going to be a good argument. You say, they're doing this, they have this kind of content, their value is this is how we're going to do it, here's the time frame divided by this. That's how you get buy-in pretty frequently when you're pitching these people. So once you've kind of gotten that framework and that buy-in, the next thing to think about is just functionally how you're going to achieve that. So if you're in the credit card space, once again, we're talking about that as a reference point. Surveys, obviously, you probably need content marketers, you probably need a great designer. But if you're in another market, you're in a lifestyle market where everyone is doing original photography, they're doing video, you now need to think, hey, we probably need a videographer, we need a photographer, we also need a designer, we need a content marketer. We might need 5 bodies in order to generate 20 articles per month in order to catch that 12-month horizon. And this is where the kind of like general strategic framework comes around, where you need to start thinking about, do you hire those people internally? Can we hire those people internally? Will they be good enough to be better than our competitors? Or do we go towards an agency? Obviously, we're biased because we are an agency, but there are, of course, situations where it makes sense to go in-house and it makes sense to go agency. But it's that point when you've thought about that kind of construct for strategy that you can then think about where you're going to get the actual head time and the labor in order to achieve the goals that you want. So from there, Hopefully you've got the team, you've got the strategy, you've got the goals in place. Now it's time to prioritize what you're doing and how to do it best. So my favorite strategy for that is actually keyword opposition to benefit analysis. Originally popularized by Todd Mallicoat, this idea is that you do something, you take your main keyword universe and then you look at keyword difficulty against what people are willing to bid on that content. And if you're lucky enough to have PPC data, you can also look at what you're actually making from similar keywords to inform if the difficulty is low and the opportunity is high, you prioritize those first. And you'd be surprised when you start this framework and you do KOB correctly and the content is starting to perform very quickly because you do KOB, suddenly your budget will go up pretty significantly because they're gonna see this is working. But if you're trying to go after content marketing as a term, you wanna rank for credit cards as a term right out of the gate, good luck, and more likely you're gonna be stagnated in terms of the budget your team gets. Other things you can do is kind of use SEMrush, Ahrefs again for content gap opportunities. These two tools both have tools you can use to look at who your competitors, what kind of content your competitors have generated that you have not. And that's beneficial because if you're a big brand, if you are Visa and there's a smaller player that's actually been publishing and now you realize you should have been doing content marketing, you can just use Content Gap to find the keywords that you did not create. So maybe your competitors somehow did credit cards for travel to Austin, for example, but you just didn't have that page. Content Gap makes it a quick, easy way of identifying the keywords that you actually don't utilize at all. And again, is a nice win to do that from a content strategy point of view. And next on that kind of analysis is to think on the proper content counter mix to satiate all needs of the organization. So obviously, if you have this massive keyword universe, you're a big brand, you suddenly understand that credit cards for X just has this massive long tail opportunity. There's credit cards for businesses, for travel, and you just don't have that, but you have a pretty popular blog. Obviously, you should not just all of a sudden publish 95 articles on that section that are credit cards for X. No one will read that. You'll have the most unreadable blog of all time. So instead, what you should do is mix up those efforts. You should put a link effort. You should do a search effort. You should do different kinds of keywords and create the mix that makes sense to achieve your goals at the end of the day. And that in total will give you the best total results when thinking from a content marketing perspective. So hopefully in total, this gives you a good content strategy for your efforts as it comes to SEO. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching.